In the U.S. Department of Justice, the Office of Justice Programs, the Office of Legal Counsel provides authoritative legal advice to the President and all the executive branches. And now I'm going to get to your question about the Justice Department and what they may have to do with this. This is where it's coming in, right? So in October of 2007, they issued a ruling. It was called the Effect of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act on Faith-Based Applications for Grants. So that's why I'm talking about this now, is because they took this law and they applied it to charitable choice and faith-based initiatives. And let's see what so they concluded that the Religious Freedom Restoration Act is reasonably construed on a case-by-case basis to require that its funding agencies permit faith-based organizations both to receive federal funds and to continue considering religion when hiring staff. As described more fully below, RFRA protects this right to preferred co-religionists for employees even if the statute that authorizes the funding program generally prohibits consideration of religion in employment decisions by grantees. So they now have a ruling from our Justice Department that says that they can legally discriminate in hiring based on religion. And this is in 2007. So now back to why it's important that we pay attention to nominees. This is where this comes in. President Obama has nominated Don Johnson to run the Office of Legal Counsel at the Justice Department. Don Johnson has a wonderful record as far as our issues are concerned. She has a very, very long history, a very, very long record. But one of the first jobs that Don Johnson took was, I think she was counsel for NARAL, for the National Action League for Abortion. Yeah. And so because of that, the religious right and these folks in the Senate that are opposed to abortion have stalled her appointment. They won't let her come up. They won't let her be voted on. Now, we want her in office. He's been in office for over a year, so we've had this Office of Legal Counsel for over a year with nobody running it. So that in and of itself is a problem with nominees. All these nominees that are stalled means no work is, or the really good work that could be done is essentially not being done because there's nobody running these departments. But number two, for us, we want this rescinded, but we can't get it rescinded because there's nobody that is running the office.
How long can they keep a hold like that going?
Well, I don't know. They've been doing it over a year now. And now the appointments at the end of the year, or the nominations at the end of the year were up. So he has to decide, Obama has to decide, is he going to renominate? Now, it just came out yesterday that he did renominate Don Johnson. He is renominating a lot of people. So that's very good. So, but we're no further ahead than we were before in getting her. So when we send something out to you and we ask you to send a letter and it has to do with nominations, there is in the background, in this very convoluted, confusing way, a reason why we're asking you to do this that's going to advance our causes. We hope.
When you send out that sort of alert, for those of us who live in D.C., is there any point in writing to someone else's senators? Do they even get through to them, like when it's email?
Sometimes I'm not supposed to do this, but sometimes what we do is we have it set up so it goes to the committee.
Okay.
And so and sometimes they go through and sometimes they don't because the companies that administer the email program with the Congress are under contract to do certain things, and sometimes they're not supposed to allow those to go through, but sometimes they do, and we take the chance. And so, yeah, if we just, if it lets you send it through, then send it through. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. It's kind of, because sometimes you'll get it back when you're in D.C. and it says that you can't do that. It is very frustrating, I know. Very sad. So in any event, that's what the story is on that, and that's why that's important. And this is where the government gets its authority. And the big frustration for myself personally, and I know for others that I work with, is that we really were hoping that when Obama got into office that we would see these. I remember like back in 2008 in October, and everybody here probably remembers midnight regulations. Remember, they were feverishly writing these midnight regulations, the Bush administration. They were going to come into effect on January 19th, and they needed 65 days. And remember, Clinton did it prior to that. But Clinton's folks didn't do it right. So they didn't have like the 65 days, or, there'd be this loophole or whatever, and a lot of their stuff didn't get through. Well, the Bush administration got it right, and they did get a lot of things through. And I remember even in the meetings that we would say, well, so what? So what if this goes through? The new administration's going to come in, and they're just going to, do away with this, yada, yada. Well, no. And we were told back then, no, that this was really important to work on trying to get these things stopped, because usually on the regulations, they have to open it up to public comment. And there's so many days for public comment, and then they have to consider all of that public comment. So we were like driving emails saying, please send in these public comments, which is another thing. When we ask you to make a public comment to a department on a regulation, it is really important because there is law and they do have to consider this. Now, we may not get anywhere, but if we're not there to stop them, it's going to be worse than it is now. They're just going to run all over us. So these are all the tactics and all the way, when they talk about the way Washington works, this is the way that it works. It's very difficult to change it. But in any event, as a coalition, we've even written it's called a rescission order. And as a coalition, we've written a rescission order and presented it to the White House staff, asking them to please, take action on this. We're very frustrated because they're not doing that. Now, this could go back to the fact that they don't have anybody in the office that can do it yet, but maybe we thought there might be a workaround. But it's part of the work that we do. We actually help write legislation, and we help write these orders for them. Okay, so, and this is what I'm saying to you here, is that we wrote to the U.S. Attorney General, Eric Holder, to request that he direct the OLC to review and ultimately withdraw this memo. We think that it's vital for the protection of religious liberty and civil rights. So now I'm at faith-based initiatives under Obama. I don't know how I'm doing on time, and I'm the kind of person that can talk forever, so you have to let me know.
Your slideshow's been running for 47 minutes and 52 seconds.
Oh, well, great. That's very cool. Okay, so, well, I'm not going to get beyond faith-based initiatives into those other things anyway today. It was too much to cover. But anyway, so...
What were the other things, just briefly, though?
The other things were... well, I might like to get to the HHS ruling because I think that's really important. And one was spiritual care, which is in the health care bill right now, which is just explicit, what's that word, when you want to swear, explicitive,